wife and I are on our 1-year wedding anniversary here in Chiang Mai in Thailand. And this is a beautiful villa, but I'm here to tell you in this video why I always bring this one thing with me for travel filmmaking, regardless of where I'm going. Hold up, what even is travel filmmaking? Well, when it comes to travel filmmaking, you're often focusing on one thing: capturing the place, experiences, and the people in the most cinematic and beautiful way possible. To capture things like that with normal filmmaking, we would use a variety of tools like tripods, sliders, gimbals, drones, monopods, and maybe even a car mount system. But with travel filmmaking, we don't have the luxury of being able to bring an entire van load of equipment with us. We often only have one backpack or suitcase to bring a few select items. We also don't have the luxury of being able to stage or even repeat shots in some cases. Now, there's a bit of an asterisk to that point, because if you are with someone, then you can stage shots. But if you're filming people from that country, in that country, often you are capturing moments as they happen, and if you miss them, you miss them. So we can't bring an entire van load of gear with us. So what do we bring? Well, I focus on one particular tool, and it's actually this, or I should be more specific. The S9, that kind of comes everywhere, but what I mean is the DJI RS3 Mini. So my first reason for always bringing a gimbal with me wherever I go for traveling is because there are specific kinds of shots you just cannot get unless you have a gimbal. I'm talking those long, drawn-out shots that showcase a place or they follow a subject through a location. You can try and do it handheld, and if you're going for that vibe, then that kind of works, but depending on your camera system, the footage can end up being very, very shaky. Now, the reason I said depending on your camera system is because, well, Lumix has the best IBIS in all of the camera industry, and with that, even my handheld walking shots can end up looking pretty damn smooth. Not perfect like with a gimbal, but almost there, almost there. You know, it's funny, you may think it's ridiculous that I bring a gimbal with me everywhere, but literally ask my wife, Yaz, do I not bring a gimbal to like almost all of our trips?
Almost. I have to beg you to not bring gimbal sometimes if you don't have space. He will sacrifice clothing for a gimbal.
Sometimes you gotta get the shot, you know, and a gimbal is the only way. The good news is the RS3 Mini, and I'm not trying to sell you on any specific gimbal. You could use the new RS4 Mini, you could use the RS3 or 4 Pro or any other brand's gimbals. The good news about the one I use is that it's pretty small. Now, there are some pros and cons to using a bigger or smaller gimbal, so let's go through that next. Isn't this just beautiful? What the first pro is to using a smaller gimbal, and I think the first one's pretty obvious: it takes up less space. A smaller gimbal, smaller, you can fit it into your suitcase or your backpack if you're not checking anything in, so it's very easy to bring a smaller gimbal with you, especially if you take off the very small tripod feet that go on the bottom. This gimbal packs down nice and small, and what I appreciate specifically for the RS3 Mini is that it is strong enough to hold up cameras like my S9 with a majority of my lenses. Now, larger zoom lenses like my Samyang 35-150 obviously will not work on this gimbal. That lens is too long and too heavy. Even though technically I think it's within the weight limit with the S9, because of how long it is, it just won't balance correctly. And that is one con when it comes to smaller gimbals, is that even though some lens and camera packages are technically underneath the limit of the maximum payload capacity of what the gimbal can handle, because of the overall shape of the combo, it may not actually balance very well or at all on your gimbal, meaning that even though technically it should work, it can't. Now, I realized I accidentally said my second point and the second thing with the pros and cons for a small gimbal. So the second pro was that small gimbals today are still quite strong, and I kind of said that where, you know, My gimbal here can hold my S9 and a variety of lenses. Let's get to the second point of why I bring this gimbal with me everywhere I go when it comes to travel filmmaking, and that is because it allows me to create grand, revealing shots which are perfect for location reveals. Going to a new place that's exciting and interesting, you want to show it off in the best way possible. And I don't know about you, but as a filmmaker, I just want to show it the best way I possibly can. And I feel like these grand, like, whoa shots to really give impact to a video and as well do justice to how a place looks. I mean, this place is a great example. There's these big pillars and the way the light shines through the trees and hits certain parts of the buildings and the grass and the bench here. It is just, you want to do it justice. I don't know, I just feel that kind of responsibility as a creator. And to do that, you just need specific tools. Unfortunately, filmmaking is kind of a pay to play sort of game where when you buy certain tools, they then unlock certain shots for you. And a gimbal is definitely one of those tools that you need to, well, pay to win, essentially. Whilst I definitely don't think you 100% need to buy tools to create great content, a gimbal is something that I just think adds a lot to what you can do as a creator. It unlocks shots for you, and also there are many gimbals. You don't have to get this one. The DJI RS3 Mini, I think £300 or £400 or dollars now, but you can get gimbals for as low as $200. The Cinepeer Weeble 3E, for example, I think is $200 to $300, and that is an excellent gimbal. The only reason I don't have it with me is, well, for one, it's a little bit bigger than this one, but two, this and that are basically the same. And on top of that, you can buy a used gimbal for probably half the price of it brand new. And trust me, these things, if looked after, hold up for years. I've had this thing for over 2 years now, showing zero sign of wear, and I'm thinking it'll probably last at least another 2 to 4. And while we're here, the second con of a smaller gimbal is that unfortunately some of the camera packages you might be used to may not fit. So I kind of touched on this already when I was going over the first point, but let me get a bit more specific. My S9 fits perfectly, like I said before. My S5 Mark II, however, can fit, but certain lenses don't fully perfectly balance with a gimbal. And that's the thing, when it comes to using a gimbal, you want to make sure you balance it as perfectly as possible, because then the gimbal, for one, will work as well as it possibly can as it's designed, and two, it means you won't burn out your motors or possibly even overload your gimbal and have it stop working mid-shot. I am speaking from experience here. Just try and balance it as best you can every single time. When it comes to travel filmmaking, we obviously want to capture the place in the most incredible and cinematic way possible, and I believe a gimbal is the best way to do this, maybe next to a drone. But one thing to always remember is to tell a story. Beautiful shots are important. Lighting, exposure, framing, it all matters. But if you're not telling a story with your shots, they're wasted. As filmmakers, content creators, photographers, whatever you call yourself, our job is to tell a story through our lenses. Whilst camera gear is important, it's not everything. So always remember the story. And also remember to click on one of these two videos over here because YouTube thinks you're gonna love them very much. I'll see you in there.